Hey people. So, in Vedic science, in the Vedas, there's a lot of stories and there's a lot of ideas. Shankaracharya, one of the great teachers of the world history, uh, had a bunch of teachings that were, as a unit, termed Vedanta. Vedanta means the end of the Vedas. So, if you study the Vedas, you intuit all of the meanings, and then you apply it to life. If you're going to explain that to somebody, you wouldn't have to read them all of the Vedic stories, or the Upanishads for that matter. You could just cut right to the chase and get to the go with Vedanta. So in the mornings, I've been reading Shankaracharya, one of his books, and it's really nice. It's just the perfect tuning for my brain before I go to work. And the real story is so subtle that it's hard to even hear it. Of course, there's actually some tools for how to deal with the mind in the body on Earth. But at the end of the day, the only thing that really is important is the idea that our true self, it's not subject to becoming, it's not subject to decay or being born. The true self is connected with the intellect, the idea of determination, being determined somehow, and the mind, the reflective quality of existence. Well, these are related to the self, but the intellect is only illuminated because of the self. But the self can never be a subject of attention, so it's eternally elusive. So the idea within the Vedas or Vedanta is that thou art that. What does that mean? It means you are that one great true God, the one without another, the bornless, incorruptible, true self. But in human form, we have the intellect, we have the body, the mind, society, all of the different cultural values and things that come and go with the eons. Whatever package the self finds itself in, it adapts and becomes real. Just as with a flashlight, you shine a flashlight in a room, well, that room is suddenly illuminated. But that flashlight can be used to illuminate anything, not just one room. It could be anything, a forest, another room, the inside of an airplane. Similarly, with the self, the true self that animates all living beings. In this case, it's a human who has a thinking in self-reference, but it could just as easily illuminate a grasshopper or some sort of highly evolved alien being with two more cortexes of understanding and transdimensional perception. But there's still the idea of the eternal. Now, the human form is special. We're kind of like, I think, like a child right at between the ages of 7 and 11. We have reason, we have that self-awareness, but we don't yet have the galactic experience to really live transdimensionally. We are still in our self bubbles, the little self. We each think we're individual selves. And within the context of the bigger play, we are, frankly. But the right knowledge that can liberate you so you can become free, according to the Vedas, is the knowledge that you are that one true eternal being. Well, what's that really mean for day-to-day living? It really means that you, the real you in you, is none other than God, which includes not just you as a person, but also the person next to you, the person on the other side of the globe, the alien races 3 dimensions over or 2 galaxies over, all of that. It's almost insurmountable. How do you approach something so vast yet so elusive? Now, I'm a mini expert, but I'm not a guru, you know? I'm not like a world teacher or anything like that. But if you approach God and you think of God as a whole, what sound does God make? I mean, that's maybe weird, but if you think of the universe as a whole and you wanted to just give the whole universe a big hug or say hello, you can imagine it as a ringing bell. All of the universe ringing as a bell. If you remember who you really are, or in some ways remember that you're not limited to this phase of creation, you're here now. You have a job to do, although who knows really what that job is. Have a loving heart, raise your kundalini maybe. But there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of importance and sacredness here. But you can't go wrong, you know? It all comes out in eternity. Under the banner of the love of God, it all works out. And although there's no rush, because you have eternity to work it out, still, there's some sort of duty. Now, I'm an American. I have access to all this great 1980s and 90s and 2000s business how-to American style, all about serving the customer and integrity. All of the great world religions have been translated into English. I've had access to all of this information, and I get wrapped up in the game of it. You know, I have a day-to-day life. I wake up and I have to do stuff. I have to do this to get that done, so this accomplishes that, and blah blah blah, going along with the time. But it's just like a dream. I woke from a dream this morning that was so strange. It was so strange. I don't remember it all, but at one point I was dragging a dead body into a forest so it would decay. It was next to another body that was laying there. But it wasn't like there was no tragedy about it. It was just real ordinary. Now, in waking life, I guarantee you I would have been like, I don't interact with dead bodies. You know, it would have been something very, very unusual. But I think we've all had the experience in dream state where upon waking, it's like, that was a weird dream. But in the middle of it, there's no reference of how weird it is. And that's always been a big puzzle to me. But it's also a really great symbol because here we are wrapped up in these lives. And yet next day, next lifetime over, you know, we're going to be something completely, we're going to be some sort of super alien being on some other planet. And it will be so ordinary. Right now we have no reference, right? Because we're just humans. We have pleasures and pains in the style of the human. But upon waking from this dream, from this lifetime, well, it's going to seem so weird. It's hard to even fathom how weird it is that we live. You know, we are these beings that are polar. I mean, there's male and female to create more of us. And all of creation, more or less, is like that. Has some sort of male and female elements that come together to create more offspring. That seems so normal that it's almost insurmountable to see outside of it. Like they say, a fish would be the last to discover water. It's just too pervasive. So we have a lot of things like that in our lives that are so pervasive, these feelings and thoughts that we don't even notice them. Or if we do notice them, it's very, very passing or casual. What you gonna do? That's sort of this is the base of our operations. That's a mystery, but you're God. Guess what? Now, you can't just wake up by hearing that once. You actually have to follow that thread back into your psyche and then bring it all the way around and start looking at the world outside of you as this sacredness. Like if you knew that God was legit and full power, and you looked around you and knew that all these little beings have God, the real God spark in them, and even this very substance, the very substance of creation is none other than one of God's bodies. Suddenly, you you can generate adoration for the most mundane things. Uh, viewing the most ordinary creatures as sacred vessels of God changes your belief, but it's almost like you have to contemplate these ideas and then bring them back into the world. Well, I wish you luck, and wish me luck. I'll talk to you later.